Well, Pat King, a key organizer of the so-called Freedom Convoy, has been granted bail.
All right, for more on this, let's go live to CTV's Glen McGregor, who's outside the courthouse in Ottawa. So, Glen, Gary, curious about all this. Of course, we saw what happened, of course, back in February in Ottawa. How did this all go down, and what's the reaction been like?
Yeah, we're expecting Pat King to leave the Ottawa courthouse after spending 150 days in custody. He was arrested back in February in the sort of the final days of the Ottawa occupation, faced a long list of charges, mischief, counseling to obstruct police among them, and then was initially denied bail. And as a result of that process of appealing that decision, he was additionally charged with perjury. So this has all taken a long time to work its way through the courts, but today a new judge hearing this decided to change his conditions and grant him bail. So he will be able to return to Alberta, where he's from, but he'll have strict rules on what he can and can't do. He can't be in contact with any of the organizers of the so-called Freedom Convoy. He has to stay off social media, has to take down his the real Pat King website and his Facebook presence. All those things has to come down, and he's going to have a curfew too. A 10 p.m. curfew, and he'll be supervised by 3 people who are called sureties. Mr. King himself has had to put up $25,000 as a bond, and his sureties put up another $20,000. So a lot of money involved, but it's for him a big relief. We heard from his lawyer a little while ago. She says she's really pleased with the outcome, really happy to see that he is going to be out of jail after 5 months in custody.
Okay, and Glenn, what comes next for him? When is the trial date supposed to be?
First thing will be a judicial pretrial. That's where the Crown presents its evidence against him, and the judge decides on when that will actually ultimately go to trial. The Crown said today they're ready to go to judicial pretrial at any time. Probably going to happen sometime in August. The actual trial not going to start for probably many months down the road.
Glenn, of course, so much of this, the Freedom Convoy started out as sort of an anti-vax or sort of anti-mandate protest, turned into so much more than that. And then the sort of politicians got involved, PCMPs were there sort of showing support for the convoy, et cetera. Have there been any mentions or appearances by any PCMPs there today showing any support for Pat King, or is he sort of a persona non grata to them now?
Yeah, I think that's right. He is persona non grata to the politicians who initially came out and supported the Freedom Convoy, and also to a lot of the people who were involved in the Freedom Convoy who came out to see, for example, when Tamara Leach was up on a bail review case a couple of weeks ago. She drew a big crowd out here. She didn't get released on bail, but much larger crowd for her. A small group here today supporting Pat King, more of a core group. Probably about a dozen people in the courthouse, some of them wearing red Free Pat King t-shirts with the inscription political prisoner. To them, they think this is a political prosecution, that they somehow blame the federal government. Of course, the federal government has no role in this. As a decision to charge Mr. King was made by Ottawa Police, to prosecute him was done by the Ontario Provincial Crown, but it all kind of fits into this conspiracy theory that the Prime Minister and the Liberal government want to quash this movement and suppress their free speech.
And Glenn, what happens if Pat King does, breach one of the conditions of his bail? Will he get rearrested? What's next?
Well, that's what we saw with Tamara Leach. She was released on bail after several appeal stages, was allowed to return to Alberta, but she went to a Freedom Award gala in Toronto and was seen talking to one of the people on her non-contact list. The police charged her with that. They went to Medicine Hat to bring her back to Ottawa, and she is currently in jail. She's going to have a hearing next week on that. But that's a pretty clear message, and the judge mentioned that case today in her instructions to Mr. King, saying, remember what happened with Tamara Leach. Keep that in mind. But his lawyer says she's pretty certain that he is going to abide by those conditions.
Okay, that is CTV's Glen McGregor live outside the courthouse in Ottawa. Glenn, appreciate the time this afternoon. Thanks so much for this.